seems to be such an increasing demand for energy, do you think that investments in energy efficiency will mitigate that to the point that even with increasing demand, there still will be surplus on the open market?
Well, the surplus is there because the generation exists, and the economy hasn't been growing very fast in the last few years, since 2008 in particular. But as units get older and are facing retirement, that will bring the supply and demand closer into balance, and therefore put pressure on prices over time. We're doing an awful lot of energy efficiency in Vermont, and I think that's a very good investment. Down the road, energy efficiency, when we need new resources, is one of the most cost-effective ways to bring that resource to customers. So I think we're a national leader on energy efficiency, and I think we should stay that way. I'd like to be working closer with Efficiency Vermont and the CV territory, and working with them even closer than we are today in terms of bringing energy efficiency opportunities to our customers.
How does this sale affect CVPS's deal with Vermont Yankee?
No impact at all on Vermont Yankee. So as we'll all watch with interest as Vermont and the state of Vermont and Vermont Yankee work through their differences, this transaction will go forward independent of that.
I certainly have a sense of what the deal is, but I'd like to have you articulate, just for clarity purposes, what is the status of CVPS's relationship with Vermont Yankee? What is the deal that's in place with an eye toward 2012?
We have a contract with Vermont Yankee to buy about half of the output from the plant that expires on March 21st, 2012. And that's basically the story. When the plant expires, when that contract expires, we won't have any more access to that power. That will leave approximately 90 megawatts of opening in our power supply portfolio. And to put that in perspective, there's more than 5,000 megawatts of surplus capacity available right now on the open market. So we won't have any trouble filling in that hole in our power supply portfolio at very attractive prices. Right now, because of the low price of natural gas, our power supply is very inexpensive right now for us. So we won't have a big impact on prices if that contract goes away and is not extended. And we're looking now at alternatives to filling that in with a longer-term power supply part of our portfolio.
It seems like CVPS, Green Mountain Power, as well as Vermont Utilities are telling their customers, don't worry about whatever happens with the legislature and Vermont Yankee. We don't really need Vermont Yankee because of, as you say, the availability, the surplus of power on the open market, affordable prices. Does it matter to CVPS does it matter at this point, after a long discussion, if Vermont Yankee does end up shutting down?
Well, I think the NRC has found the unit safe and extended the license. It's a valuable resource because it's built in the past, and its capital costs are going to be lower than any new power supply. So having it available as a resource in the New England mix is going to help keep prices down. So it's just going to keeping it running. We'll add supply, and in the balance of supply and demand, it's more good than bad for prices to have the plant running. Having said that, right now, given the availability of low-cost gas, which really sets the price in New England for energy or electricity, it wouldn't have an immediate impact on customers in any meaningful way if we had to change from Vermont Yankee to another source of supply. Down the road, though, it's obviously better to have the plant in the mix for the long haul as the demand for energy goes up over time, as the economy rebounds. Having more supply available at the lower cost, the better.
And do you have a sense as to how Vermont Yankee's presence affects our overall economy?
Well, only from what I read in the paper about the jobs and the local impact on the economy in the Vernon Brattleboro area. Obviously, a significant issue in that geography.
There's some legal action going on with Entergy and Vermont Yankee. I'm sure I don't have to tell you. I mean, what's your sense as to whether that could be thwarted at all by the sale to Fortis, or if that matters.
No, I don't see any connection whatsoever between that litigation in federal court and the Fortis transaction. Yeah, we're really on a completely separate track from that. We're watching it obviously closely, but don't see any connection whatsoever.
You seem very excited about this sale. What's your gut feeling about this, and what's the vibe like inside CVPS?
You know, I'm personally very excited about this because this is a unique opportunity to get the benefits of being part of a larger organization with the access to capital that it brings, but retaining the culture and the heritage and the commitment to public service that Central Vermont is also very proud of as a local company that's done so well. And that's really, I think, speak for all the employees, the 520 or so employees of Central Vermont, all very, very excited about this transaction and the opportunities. Well, our board and our employees probably would have had a preference to remain independent if all else equal. Given, you know, the circumstance we found ourselves in, we're very fortunate to have found such a great partner with a great cultural fit for the company.
So all things being equal, if you had to if there was going to be a takeover,
this is
a good
the best possible partner.
Okay, and you mentioned 520
employees,
and are many of them shareholders as well? Do you have sort of embedded?
I'm sure many of them are as through a 401k plans and other options.
That's what I was.
Yeah, I'm sure they are shareholders that they're going to benefit from the transaction.
It's an automatic. Stock options within the company are part of your compensation?
For some, I'm not quite sure how it works for the rank and file employees, but I'm sure that as part of the 401k program, they have an opportunity to invest in shares if they elect to.
But certainly your executives are...
The executives have had...
are large scale shareholders?
Well, they have share requirements to own a certain number of shares depending upon how far up in the organization, because the company's philosophy, I think, in keeping with best practices, was to have the management of the company invested in the shareholder and the outcome of shareholders, so get stake in that.
So a $10 plus premium on those, that might be a pretty nice payday for.
It certainly is good for all shareholders. That's true.
Tim, any?
Have your corporate customers expressed any concern that if VY were to shut down in March 2012, that it'd be a loss to the economy and that sort of filter through?
Well, initially there were some concerns about that, not so much the economy in the Brattleboro area, but the prices. And I think, you know, if Vermont Yankee shut down a couple of years ago when prices were much higher than they are today in the market, we would have seen a noticeable increase in prices. But right now, the market and the VY contract are not widely divergent. So it's that concern has passed with time, and I've met with a couple of our largest customers and talk them through that, and I think given them some comfort that that things are not the way they were a few years ago when people were starting to worry about that.
But on that same note, you had mentioned earlier that the reason that power prices have remained low is because our economy has not been growing very much in the last few years.
That's one factor.
When our economy does turn around, I mean, are we going to be seeing those power prices returning to the same level they were 3 years ago?
I don't think they'll go to the same level for two reasons. One, the biggest one is the price of natural gas has come down, and that 2 years ago, you look back and the gas was 4, maybe 5 times what it is now. And
in dollar figures?
I want to say it's like $4 or $5 a million cubic feet right now versus close to 20, a few years back, and it's the million BTUs, and that's it's that change in the price of gas, which really, the gas-fired generation is on the margin in New England. It really, when they need another kilowatt hour, it's gas-fired, and that's so that sets the clearing price, the cost of gas, which is the key component as to the price of that generation, and because of the increase in the supply of gas from all this fracking and all this new supply, that is keeping the price of electricity down, and that's really a change circumstance from a couple of years ago. And while the economy slowed down has contributed also to the depressed prices, the gas availability and the availability of the low-price gas is the biggest thing that's going to keep us, we think power prices down in the near future.
As the economy turns around and demand for energy increases, you're not anticipating a similar rise?
Not to where it was, because we think the gas prices are going to stay low for the foreseeable future.
Seems like a couple years ago, utilities, large power consumers, big companies, for example, were really pressing the panic button on, if Vermont Yankee closes, that's the end of Vermont's economy. That's the end of jobs. That's the end of investment.
Well, I don't want to understate the impact on the local economy. I think it'll be a very serious impact there. Certainly, eventually, if the plant were to shut down. But from a power supply perspective, it's this gas availability of this low-cost gas, which has really changed the circumstances. It's a new fact.
In other words, if you can't get the power from Vermont Yankee, there are plenty of other suppliers.
Right now, and they're at approximately the same cost. The only thing that I'm really looking forward to is our continued investment in the Smart Grid program, and I'm very proud of the fact that Central Vermont was actually able to partner with VTEL in using our stimulus money and our investment in the Smart Grid in partnership with VTEL and their stimulus money for the rollout of the 4G LTE network. Actually, the way we've been able to work together on that is something that I think is unique to Vermont, and it's not just CV, the other utilities are doing it as well. But it's something I'm very proud of, because I think it sets a unique in the country, as I've talked to people from DOE about this, and it's something we need here is a better cell phone network in the state, and I'm very pleased we're playing a little part in helping bring that about sooner rather than later. So the Smart Grid program, we focused on VY and was focused on this transaction. If you put those kind of one-time things aside, the only other really big exciting thing going on at CV right now is the Smart Power program, and that's we're going to be putting in the first meters this fall and spreading throughout the state next year, and that program is going to be providing additional benefits to customers down the road and for the long time. And the exact benefits of which, we know there's some benefits that are going to be clear. We're going to do a lot of research with customers to figure out how to make it work best for customers as well, so they get the maximum benefits of it. And I'm confident that 5 or 10 years from now, we'll be using the smart meters and the Smart Grid program for things we haven't even thought of yet. So
I'm missing a point here. Well, how does the Smart Grid relate to cell phone service?
Well, the smart meters are actually going on the house, and there's that information is going to go wirelessly to a collector box in a neighborhood, and then to a substation where it is sent back over the over the LTE.
Just transmission lines.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So we'll be using the cell phones and the fiber optic networks as part of that system to bring back our information that we need for the Smart Grid program.
So it'll be your meters communicating over the 4G system, not just us making our telephone calls.
Right. Okay. So our meters are using it, but we're kind of like an anchor tenant on the new system now to help justify it and get it rolled out across the state.
Can you put a dollar number on the Smart program?
$60 million, and is the total cost for CV, and about half of that is being paid for by the federal government under the stimulus funding.
Okay.
So I think the state program, the statewide, is probably double. I think the state got maybe $60 million for just the smart meter part. I don't know quite how much VTEL got for their stimulus money, but that's subject to maybe even worthy of a separate story at some point down the road.
Yeah, what's the time frame on Smart Grid?
Next year, we're going to start installation in the fall, but really rolling it out to next year and beyond. So it's a time-consuming process to change out every single meter and to get the network working. But we'll next year customers will start to see it.